Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and hello everyone. In this video, we'll be trying to understand what is list in clean and how to implement it. Without further ado, let's start coding. I already went ahead and created a file called main, and in this file we will be learning how to implement a list. In the previous couple of videos, we learned how to define and use a variable, and it can be done by writing the name of the variable and assign a value to it. Let it be 5. Or it can even store the result of a function. For instance, let's create a function called function with variables, and let's give it an n as an input. And let's create a variable with value 3 assigned to it. Then we can just use that variable, and let's run the program and we will be getting 3. Now imagine this situation. Let's say we have 5 baskets, basket 0, basket 1, 2, 3 and 4. Each basket with its own number. Now let's put 8 balls in basket 0 and 4 in basket 1, then 2, then 6 and finally 1. Since we have 5 baskets and each basket stores its own value, we will need 5 variables to store these values if we try to simulate that in a programming language. For example, let's edit the function with variable and define 5 variables, each representing a basket. Same as the previous animation, we will create 5 variables to simulate what the baskets contain. So, basket 0 has 8 balls, basket 1 has 4 balls, basket 2 has 2 balls, basket 3 has 6 balls, and finally basket 4 has 1 ball. As you can see, this will work fine. However, if we have lots of baskets, this task of defining variables for each basket will be outrageous. So there is actually a better way to do what we just did, and that is by using what's known as a list. Most languages implement this kind of type, which stores values in a sequence. So instead of defining variables 5 times, we can define one variable which can hold multiple values. So for example, let's define a variable called baskets which will hold multiple values. Or in other words, we need to make the variable holds a list of values or a sequence of elements. For example, let's create the variable and name it baskets, and it will contain the same values as the baskets in the animation. 8, 4, 6, 2, 2, 6, 1. The first element resembles the 0 basket and the last element resembles the number 4 basket. A reminder, a list just holds multiple values in a sequence. Make sure to keep that in mind. A list just holds multiple values in a sequence. And the sequence starts from left to right. The first value inside the list will be indexed by 0. And a pro tip. The index just means the position. So when I say it will be indexed by 0, I mean it will be put inside the 0 basket, the 0 position. And we can access the value of one of our baskets by the exclamation mark symbol. For instance, let's get the number of balls inside the 0 basket. First, we write the variable name, which holds the list of values, then the exclamation mark symbols to tell clean that we need a specific element inside this list. Finally, let's put the index of the first element, which represents the balls number inside the 0 basket, or the position 0. And if we try to run the program, we get an 8, since that is the number stored in the index 0 or the position 0. So, index is just a synonym for position. Keep that in mind. Notice that in many programming languages, the index of elements start from 0 instead of 1. This is a convention in computer science, so just embrace it. Yeah, weird things happen in computer science. Try to convince someone from another major that 1 plus 1 equal 1, 0, not 2. Anyway, back to reality. So I was saying that a list index starts from 0. Now let's make the function general and return the nth element. It will still work fine. Another thing to keep in mind is that the exclamation marks symbol is defined inside the std list, which is imported inside the std-env module. So whenever we import the std-env, we also get the privilege to use the exclamation mark symbols. So let's try to comment the import of the std-env and an error will show up. And there are many more functions and symbols which will help us to process the lists. One of them is the HD or head function. It also is imported with the std-env module. This function just brings back or returns the first element inside the list. We also have some other function called last, and it returns the last element inside the list. It's kind of similar to the baskets. Then we try to grab the last element of the list. There is also another function called length to return the length of the list. There are many more functions, for instance tail, TL, to return the rest of the list except the first element, and many more. We can see the functions by hovering over one of the functions and go to the search menu and click on search definition. The beautiful window will appear telling us where to find these definitions. Let's choose the std, the instance one, which is defined inside the std list, and you will see all the functions inside or regarding the list type. So in other words, the std list definition module will contain all the functions and operators that we can use to process a list. And as you can see in the pink window, we have many functions to be covered in one video, but the functions are straightforward and have comments on how to use them beside them. In this video we use the head function, which you can see its definition here. We have the function name, the double colons, then the input type, which is a list of course, and it outputs an element, which is the first element inside that list. So when we import the std-env, we get all these functions imported to our current module and we can use any of them. One last thing to keep in mind is that the name of the variable can be anything. It can be changed, not just baskets. So we can change the name from baskets to cool baskets, for example, and it will still work fine. Finally, a list can contain any type inside it. So we can have a list of characters and everything will still work fine. So it can contain any type of values. However, we cannot have a list which contains a variety of types. In other words, all elements inside that list must be of the same type. If we have different types inside one list, we will get an error. And that wraps it for this video. In this video we learned how to use a list, which is a data structure enabling us to hold multiple values inside it. And we also learned how to implement that in Clean and some of the functions regarding that data structure, the list data structure. In the next video we'll be learning arrays, and hope I see you there. Thank you for watching and goodbye. Salam.